This story is titled, "After My Car Broke Down at Night, I Called My Sister for Help." She replied, "That's what happens when you don't plan for life." Then she blocked me. I walked 12 miles home. A year later, I got a promotion she wanted. Yesterday, she left me 21 messages. "Please put in a word. I'm desperate." So here's the deal. I didn't post this for karma or advice. I just need to know if I'm the a-hole for enjoying the karmic symphony playing out in real time. Let's rewind the tape to one glorious night of absolute hell. I drive a 2008 Civic. It's beat to hell, but it's mine, and I've kept it running with duct tape, desperate prayers, and the occasional sacrificial offering of my sanity. That car and I have history. It's taken me through 3 states, 2 breakups, and 1 horrifying road trip with my ex who thought Kid Rock was a vibe. Point is, I depend on it. So naturally, the night it chose to die was during a freezing rainstorm on some cursed back road outside of Toledo. It was pitch black. My phone was at 8%, and my dumbass had convinced myself I didn't need to charge it earlier because what could possibly go wrong? Spoiler: everything. First person I call? My older sister Heather, 32F. Heather, who has always had a black belt in passive aggression and a PhD in moral superiority. The kind of person who says things like, "If you'd just been more responsible when you get laid off," or, "Well, that's what happens when you don't plan for life," when you call sobbing about your engine giving up on you in the middle of the night. Guess which one she said to me that night? Ding ding. That's what happens when you don't plan for life. Then she hung up. Not just hung up, but blocked me. Who blocks someone mid-breakdown call? Like, girl, what is your problem? So I did what any self-respecting, pissed off, mildly hypothermic person would do. I walked home. 12. Damn. Miles. In dress shoes. I looked like a wet funeral attendee trudging through slush while contemplating every bad decision I've ever made that somehow led me to this moment. My feet still scream when they see leather. I didn't tell anyone. Not our parents, not our mutual friends, not even my therapist, though she definitely noticed my rage, weather, energy the next session. I just tucked it away in my mental filing cabinet labeled, "Reasons You Don't F*** with Heather, ***. Next to the time she told our grandma I stole her engagement ring. Spoiler: Heather lost it herself. Classic. Fast forward a year. Life decides to throw me a bone. I land a big promotion at work. Not just any job, Heather's dream job. The one she applied for 3 times. I didn't even apply initially. My boss suggested I try. 2 interviews and a shockingly enthusiastic recommendation letter later. Boom. Offer in hand. Guess who found out yesterday? Heather. Guess who left 21 voicemails and 3 texts that started with "please" in all caps? Also Heather. Apparently, she's desperate. Apparently, she needs this job or she'll lose her apartment. Apparently, we can't let family stuff get in the way of our careers. Funny, because I remember a night where family stuff absolutely didn't matter. And now I've got a front row seat to her unraveling. So Reddit, AITA for ignoring the voicemails, cranking up my stereo, and watching karma do the electric slide right across her LinkedIn dreams? So, remember how I said Heather blew up my phone with 21 voicemails? I wish I could say they were all heartfelt pleas. They were more like a slow descent into desperation, denial, and rage. A greatest hits compilation of "Please help me," "You're being petty," "I know you're seeing this," and my personal favorite, "This is exactly why no one trusts you." Ma'am, no one trusts me? She didn't start with, "I'm sorry. That's what killed me." Not a single, "Hey, I messed up," or "I shouldn't have left you freezing on the side of the road like a raccoon in church clothes." Nope. Just jumped straight into the ask like it was owed to her. Classic Heather energy. Let me back up a bit. Heather has always played life on cheat mode. Parents bailed her out of 2 failed startups, covered her rent temporarily for 4 years, and acted like it was a tragedy when she didn't get into grad school for the 5th time. Meanwhile, I was the kid who had to justify asking for gas money. I took the long route. Got a job right out of high school, paid my way through community college 1 late-night shift at a time, and crawled my way up from the cubicle graveyard to a desk with a window and enough PTO to fake being happy once a quarter. I earned this. But to Heather, I just got lucky. So when she found out I got the promotion, she didn't congratulate me. She didn't even acknowledge it. She just texted, "Wow," like I told her I ran into her ex at Costco. Then radio silence for 3 weeks. Now suddenly, it's "Please put in a word for me. I need this job." She even threw in a "we're family" cherry on top, as if that magically erases the time she left me to hoof it home like Forrest Gump and loafers. And look, I'm not a monster. I did consider it. For about 30 seconds. Until I remembered walking past a dead possum on mile 6 of that freezing night, thinking at least someone had the decency to lie down and die. Still, I didn't delete the voicemails. I saved them. because part of me was curious how far she'd go. Turns out, pretty damn far. By voicemail 11, she was ugly crying. By 17, she switched gears and said, "You know, I was just trying to push you to be better." Oh, is that what that was? Leaving me to get hypothermia so I could grow as a person? Then voicemail 21 hit. The nuclear option. "If you don't do this, I'm going to tell mom and dad what really happened with your old job." That's when I laughed out loud. Like, full-on movie villain cackle. Because what she thinks happened, that's not even the half of it. And oh, sweet reader, the truth is a story I've been waiting a long time to tell. Okay, let's talk about the old job threat. So voicemail 21 ended with Heather basically hissing into the phone like a budget bond villain, saying, "I'll tell them what really happened at your old job." Now, if I were the kind of person with actual skeletons in my closet, I might have panicked. But what Heather thinks happened versus what actually went down. Two entirely different beasts. See, about 2 years ago, I worked at this small tech firm run by a bunch of people who treated crunch culture like a religion. I was pulling 60-hour weeks for a boss who thought boundaries were something weak people made up. The kind of place where if you weren't logged into Slack at 2 a.m., someone would Slack you asking why you weren't logged in. And Heather? She was obsessed with that job, always bragging to her friends about how her brother works in tech, like I was building rockets and not babysitting a failing cloud storage platform. She kept asking if they were hiring. I told her no, and even if they were, I wouldn't recommend it. You know what she said? "You're just threatened I'll outshine you." Like, okay, Elon Musk. Sure. Anyway, long story short, the firm was a mess. One of the senior devs got caught stealing proprietary code, and the company started bleeding clients. Morale went full Titanic. I tried to stay above the chaos, kept my head down, until one day I submitted a quiet suggestion that we slow roll a product update instead of rushing it live. Cue corporate tantrum. My boss flipped, accused me of not being a team player, and I got nudged out with one of those gentle HR-assisted exits where they make it sound mutual, but really just want you gone before you start asking too many questions. I never told anyone the full story. I let my family think I left voluntarily for mental health reasons, which, to be fair, was part of it. But Heather? She took it and ran with it. She's been telling people for months that I got fired for screwing up a major project. Said I was hiding the shame and had a pattern of failure. Said it at brunch with our cousin. Said it at a birthday party once. She even told my ex. And now she wants to use that as blackmail? Oh honey, I could blow up her spot in 2 emails flat. I've got the HR correspondence. I've got the NDA. I've even got screenshots from the Slack thread where my plan was the only one that didn't result in 2 clients suing. But more than that, I've got something else, receipts. Literal ones. Remember when I said I was curious how far she'd go? Let me tell you about a little incident I've been sitting on. The one that involved her, a corporate credit card, and a very creative use of Photoshop. Because if Heather wants to play dirty, she has no idea who she's dealing with. All right, time to drag the skeletons into the sunlight. Let's talk about Heather's wellness retreat and the Photoshop job that would have made a bored middle schooler cry from secondhand embarrassment. Back when she was working as a marketing consultant, Reed, 1099 contractor clinging to corporate clout with white knuckles, she somehow landed a part-time gig with this boutique skincare company. Think overpriced serums, unregulated plant-based science, and a CEO who wore linen pants to Zoom calls. The job barely paid, but they gave her a company card to build brand presence, which was basically code for please don't spend more than $200 a month on Instagram ads. So what does Heather do? Books a flight to Miami with her 2 equally delusional friends, stays in some artsy hotel with drinks that come in hollowed-out dragon fruit, and drops nearly $3,000 in a weekend. On skincare ads? Oh, sweet naive reader, no? We're talking $700 dinners, poolside cocktails, and a massage package labeled Soul Detox. The cherry on top? A ticket to an EDM festival she described in the expense notes as a client networking event. Who exactly she was networking with while rolling face at 2 a.m., we may never know. Naturally, the company freaked when the receipts hit accounting. They emailed her asking for an explanation and a breakdown of expenses. What does Heather do? She sends them a photoshopped invoice from a fake Women's Entrepreneurial Wellness Summit. I'm not even kidding. She replaced the festival logo with a stock image of women high-fiving under a banner that said, "Empower Her 2022. One of the panel speakers listed? A woman who died in 2016. It was so sloppy I had to double-check it wasn't satire. But get this, it worked. Or at least it bought her a few weeks. She claimed she lost access to the booking emails, and strung them along with fake calendar invites and blurry PDFs until they finally just stopped responding. She bragged about it. At Thanksgiving, drunk on Chardonnay, waving her phone at me and saying, "See? You just have to look like you know what you're doing." Meanwhile, our uncle had a literal stroke at the dinner table and she was too busy explaining invoice formatting to notice. I screenshotted everything. The fake summit logo, the dates that didn't line up, the flight itinerary showing she flew back 2 days before the summit allegedly ended. I even downloaded the metadata from the photoshopped image file, which showed it was created after she got the reimbursement request. Chef's kiss. I never planned to use it. I figured she'd implode on her own, and I had better things to do than play whistleblower on my own sister. But now she's threatening to torpedo my job over some made-up firing and begging me to pull strings to get her hired at my company. This is the same woman who blocked me while I was freezing to death on Route 32, then went on vacation the next day and posted about how people create their own chaos. Oh, Heather, you want chaos? I was born in it. So, let's talk about the job interview. Not mine. Hers. After the barrage of voicemails and passive-aggressive threats, Heather must have finally figured out subtlety wasn't getting her anywhere. So she applied directly to my company. For my old position. The one I left to take the promotion. Let me explain something about that job. It's no joke. You need to know how to juggle 3 flaming swords while tap dancing on a landmine. It's half project management, half emotional hostage negotiation with vendors, and all patience testing hell. You miss a deadline in that role and suddenly there's a VP breathing down your neck like it's your fault the client's toddler fed their quarterly report to the family dog. I only survived because I learned to say circle back and let's sync offline while rage texting my therapist. Heather? She's allergic to responsibility. Like, medically adverse. I've seen her delete calendar reminders because they gave her anxiety. The idea of her in that job was so cosmically wrong it felt like God was testing me for sport. When I saw her name in the applicant pool, I nearly choked on my LaCroix. But HR didn't know we were related. They just saw Heather, last name, with a resume full of buzzwords and a Canva-designed header that said, Marketing Maven Vision Strategist Empathy Evangelist. I'm not making this up. She got a screening interview. Now, I wasn't directly involved. Different department. But the hiring manager? My buddy Jason. And when I say buddy, I mean the guy who once held my hair back while I vomited tequila into a Target bag after the company holiday party. We're close. Jason shoots me a Slack message. Dude, you see who applied for your old role? She's intense. I replied. You mean my sister who once tried to expense a wellness summit that didn't exist? Q frantic typing on his end. No way. That's her. I told him everything. Well, not everything. I didn't want to sound vindictive. But I gave him enough. The fake invoices, the drama, the ego, the way she once told me corporate jobs are for people who gave up on their dreams. He asked if I had proof. I sent him the screenshots. Then he told me about the interview. Apparently Heather showed up 10 minutes late, didn't apologize, and kicked things off by saying the position looked pretty entry-level, but she was willing to help elevate the department. Then she name-dropped me 4 times like we were some dream team who used to ideate together on workflows. Girl, we haven't ideated since you stole my Netflix login and blamed it on a hacker. Jason said she barely answered the actual questions. Just pivoted every time with phrases like, I think what's more important to discuss is leadership style. When he asked about project timelines, she said she prefers to work in intuitive bursts. When he asked about technical skills, she quoted Brené Brown. She ended the interview by saying, I think it's clear I'm overqualified, but I'm willing to take this role for the right team culture. The moment he hung up, Jason messaged me. We're absolutely not hiring her. But holy hell, thank you for the heads up. So yeah, Heather didn't get the job. No callback. No rejection email yet either. They're ghosting her on purpose to avoid the inevitable storm of entitlement that'll follow. And me? I slept better that night than I have in months. Maybe because, for once, I wasn't the one cleaning up her mess. Ah yes. Enter the final boss, Mom. It was inevitable. Like clockwork. I could almost feel the maternal judgment swelling in the air the minute Heather's application got torched. I knew she'd call Mom, play the I'm being unfairly targeted card, and sob about how I'm ruining her life. Again. And right on cue, my phone lit up the next morning with a cheerful little Mom cell notification. I let it go to voicemail. Twice. The third time, I figured I'd better pick up, if only to avoid a surprise pop-in and a monologue about how families should stick together, delivered over lukewarm banana bread. She didn't even say hello. Just launched right in with, I just spoke with your sister. She's devastated. Devastated. Sure. Because when I think of Heather, I think fragile flower wilting in adversity. Not the woman who once made a waiter cry because they were out of oat milk. I let her talk. 15 uninterrupted minutes of classic mom hits. You know your sister's been struggling. She really looked up to you. It wouldn't kill you to help her. And the Grammy winning. You've always been the one who had it together. Oh, that last one? That's code for, we expect you to fix things without making a scene, because you're the responsible one. I've heard it since I was 12. So I said. She blocked me on the side of the road during a snowstorm, Mom. She let me walk home for 12 miles like a forgotten Amazon package. Does that sound like someone who deserves a favor? Silence. Then she sighed. Not an I'm sorry sigh. Not even an I get it sigh. Just a you're being dramatic again sigh. Well, maybe if you planned better. I hung up. Yep. I, a grown adult, hung up on my own mother. And you know what? I'd do it again with feeling. Because I realized something in that moment. This wasn't just about Heather. This was the system. The one where Heather acts like a mess tornado and I'm the designated cleanup crew. Where she gets sympathy for being a disaster and I get lectures for setting boundaries. Where my effort is expected and her effort is optional. And now that Heather's desperate and grasping at straws, everyone suddenly wants to talk about family loyalty. Where was that loyalty when I was limping down Route 32 with frozen toes and no ride? Where was it when Heather laughed about it later like it was a character-building episode? Oh, but don't worry. It got worse. Because about an hour after I hung up on Mom, I got a text from Dad. Simple. Cold. Call your mother and apologize. You're being cruel. Cruel. Me. The guy who once paid Heather's rent for 3 months when she blew her student loan refund on a branding retreat in Sedona. The guy who still has the shoes from that night, mud-caked, salt-stained, and sitting in my closet as a reminder of exactly what not giving a second chance looks like. You know what? I didn't call back. And I didn't explain myself. Because for once, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. I thought we'd hit peak drama after the mom call. I was wrong. So painfully wrong. Because when Heather realized I wasn't budging and that my company wasn't calling her back, she did what any self-respecting, unhinged adult influencer wannabe would do. She took it to the internet. First came the LinkedIn post. I knew something was up the second I got tagged in a notification titled, Resilience in the Face of Nepotism. Oh yes, she actually wrote that. It was this passive-aggressive novella about how some people are born into privilege, while others have to fight twice as hard to be seen. She talked about being blacklisted for having ambition, and how gatekeeping poisons company culture. And then, in bold, it's disappointing when even family would rather see you struggle than succeed. The comments were a mix of so proud of you and DM me, Queen. One person asked, wait, is this about your brother? To which she replied, I'll let the facts speak for themselves. Whatever that means, Heather. You literally photoshopped a dead woman onto a fake wellness retreat flyer. Next came the cryptic tweets. My favorite was, some people are only supportive when you're beneath them. Hashtag facts not shade. Followed by, when the mask slips and the good sibling shows their true colors. At this point, even my ex texted me like, oh, is everything okay with your sister, or is she starting a podcast called Trauma and Tea? But wait, she wasn't done. She sends me an email, because I've blocked her on everything else, titled Olive Branch. I open it, thinking maybe she's finally going to apologize, or at least offer a truce. Nope. It was a pitch deck. I wish I were joking. A full PDF presentation for a female-forward startup called Zinfluence. The concept? Coaching high-achieving women through toxic masculinity in digital spaces. The business model? $99 per month Zoom seminars and digital energy realignment services. The target market? Emotionally exhausted empaths. One of the slides had a Venn diagram labeled Empowerment, Capitalism, Crystals. She ended the email with, if you won't help me at your company, maybe you'll invest in mine. Early founder perks available. Think about it. I stared at my screen for a full minute before closing my laptop and just screaming into a throw pillow. This is what I'm dealing with. A sister who blocks me when I'm stranded in a storm, threatens to nuke my reputation over made-up nonsense, and then asks me to bankroll her scam therapy cult because the universe told her she's a disruptor. Honestly, it was kind of impressive. And a this person should not be near power tools or unsecured passwords kind of way. Oh, and she posted on Facebook that night. Sometimes you realize the biggest snakes are the ones closest to your family tree. Girl, if I'm a snake, it's because I slithered away from your mess and finally found peace in my own grass. You ever open your front door and immediately wish you could slam it shut so hard it reverses time? Because that's exactly what happened when I saw my mom, my dad, and Heather standing on my porch like some kind of disappointment-themed Avengers. It was a Sunday. I was in sweatpants. I had no warning. Dad looked uncomfortable, holding a Tupperware container like it was a peace treaty. Mom had that face, tight-lipped, eyes already narrowed, ready to turn my living room into an emotional war zone. And Heather was wearing sunglasses like she was trying to convince herself she hadn't just posted 14 LinkedIn subtweets about me in the past week. Mom starts with her usual, "We need to talk as a family." Translation: "You're about to get ambushed, so smile for the emotional firing squad." I let them in because at that point, morbid curiosity had taken over. Heather flounced in like she'd just returned from exile, dropped onto my couch, and started scrolling her phone like this was her apartment. Mom dove right in. "We're very concerned about how you've been treating your sister." I nearly laughed. Like an actual snort. "You mean the same sister who left me to freeze to death in a parking lot and then tried to blackmail me into giving her a job?" Cue the dramatic gasp. Mom clutched her pearls, figuratively, though she actually was wearing a pearl necklace, which felt wildly appropriate. "That was a misunderstanding," she said. Heather, from the couch, didn't even look up. Just mumbled, "You were being dramatic." So I did it. I pulled out the binder. Yup, I made a binder. You think I came this far without documentation? Inside, screenshots of the voicemails. The photoshopped invoice file from the fake wellness summit. The email pitch for Zinfluence, complete with the empowerment, capitalism crystal's Venn diagram. Her old text calling my job corporate clown work. And for flair, the Instagram story she posted after blocking me that night. The one that said, "Some people create their own emergencies by being irresponsible. Not my problem." I laid it on the coffee table like I was presenting evidence at a war crimes tribunal. Silence. Mom blinked like she'd been slapped with a cold salmon. Dad leaned forward, looked at the binder, and quietly said, "Heather, is this true?" And finally, the mask slipped. Heather sat up and hissed. "This is exactly what he does. He hoards stuff and weaponizes it. It's manipulative. He's always been jealous of me. Jealous of her. The woman who tried to expense ecstasy and acai bowls as emotional team building." Mom tried to pivot, talking about forgiveness and moving forward. I told her we can move forward the second Heather apologizes for blocking me, lying about my job, and trying to tank my career because her life is built on whatever scam she's running this week. Heather stood up. "You're a narcissist." I stood up. "You're a cautionary tale." Dad just exhaled like he aged 5 years in one conversation. He muttered something about needing air and walked outside. Mom looked between us like she couldn't decide who disappointed her more and finally said, "I hope you realize how much damage you're doing to this family." I looked her in the eye and said, "No, I'm just the first one who stopped pretending we weren't already broken." They left. Heather flipped me off from the passenger seat. And me? I poured a whiskey at 11:30 a.m. and blasted Fleetwood Mac like a man reborn. You ever feel like life's trying to see if you'll crack or clap back? Because just when I thought the circus had left town, Heather spiraling, Mom disappointed, Dad emotionally checked out, I get one last message from my sister. It came 2 days after the family intervention flopped harder than her Zinfluence pitch. It was a handwritten letter. Heather sent me a letter. Like we were in 1847 and I'd gone off to die in the mines. It started with, "I've had time to reflect," which already had me rolling my eyes so hard I pulled something in my neck. She went on to say she didn't realize how hurtful her actions had been, that she was under a lot of stress, that people lash out when they feel cornered. And then, brace yourself, what she wrote. "I may have said some things that weren't accurate. I never meant to damage your reputation. I just didn't know how else to get your attention. Oh, I don't know. Maybe not through character assassination and spiritual pyramid schemes." She finished it off with this gem. "If there's any way you could still help me get my foot in the door at your company, I would be eternally grateful. I know I messed up. Please just consider it." No apology for the night she blocked me in the cold. No mention of the voicemails, the fake summit, the social media smear campaign. Just oops energy and a Hail Mary. And here's where things got interesting. Because the same day I got her letter, my boss forwarded me a resume. Said a recruiter recommended this woman, sharp, creative, a little chaotic but promising. Guess whose name was at the top? Yup. She'd applied again, through a staffing agency this time. Tried to backdoor her way and like I wouldn't find out. Even used a slightly tweaked last name. Heather with a fake hyphen. "Ma'am," my boss asked, "is this someone you'd vouch for?" I sat there staring at the email. Everything in me wanted to write back with a paragraph-long roast. Just lay it all out. But I didn't. I replied with exactly 6 words. "No, I do not recommend her. That's it. Nothing else. Clean. Clinical. Surgical. Because here's the truth. I'm not mad anymore. I'm done. I've spent years carrying the weight of being the better sibling, the reliable one, the default fixer for her disasters. And for what? To be thrown under the bus the second I had something she wanted? So no, I didn't reply to her letter. I didn't call mom back. I didn't send a long-winded message explaining myself or setting a boundary with a ribbon on top. I just chose myself. I kept my job, kept my peace. And last night, for the first time in a long time, I went on a date with someone who doesn't see me as a stepping stone or a backup plan. Someone who asked about me, not who I could connect them with. As for Heather, well, I hear she's pivoting again. Something about launching a podcast on career sabotage and emotional resilience. That it's gonna be fire. So Reddit, ATA, for letting her sink in the chaos she made and finally choosing to swim on my own? Because honestly, the waters never felt warmer.